What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. We have some stuff that we need to talk about because the eclipse is coming up very, very soon. And we need to talk about everything that's going on. We need to talk about the conditions that are happening. And we need to zoom out and kind of get this thing in frame so that way you guys can understand what I'm talking about. So, with that being said, we're going to jump right into it. Here's how we're going to do this today with the eclipse forecast. We're going to start by looking at precipitation and cloud cover and a few other meteorological aspects for the first half of the forecast. And then the second half, we're going to talk solely on impacts and who has the best chance for getting the eclipse forecast, because I've been talking with David Schlotthauer. He is going to be going down to Texas to watch the eclipse, and this is also for him, and I'm going to kind of give my opinion on it for him and his friends and all that, so that way I can help him out a little bit. But with that being said, let's jump right into it. So we're going to go ahead and look at some computer models. There's only two computer models that we can really use at this current point because they go far enough out. I might pull up pivotal weather at some point just to kind of look at what other things are, and other metrics are saying. But here's what we have right here. This is the European AI model right here. This is mainly precipitation. I'm gonna look for like cloud cover and stuff like that for this down the road. But here's what we have for the European AI model. This is all precipitation, so keep that in mind. So we're gonna go ahead and go to the day of the eclipse at this current point. Now, granted, I know this is very far out. It's April 8th, and we're about 13 days out, at least according to these forecast models. But this is just the best information I can derive, just so I can get to you guys, and so that way I can hopefully put two and two together, and you guys can make a decision on where you want to go see the eclipse. So here's what we have going on right here. Here's the European AI model that we have. This is for 1 a.m. on April 8th Central Time right here, which is where this eclipse is mainly going to be, the Central Time Zone. It's going to be moving, at least the path of totality is, moving through Texas, through Oklahoma, Arkansas, southeastern Missouri, into southern Illinois, through a lot of Indiana, actually. It's pretty much cuts Indiana in half right there. It goes right through the Indianapolis area, into Ohio, and then into Canada, into New York, and parts of New England over there. So that's kind of the general gist of what we're looking at. So here's what we have. About 7 a.m. This is a few hours before the eclipse starts in the United States. Not exactly totality, but around the the partial eclipse for where it is going to start in a few hours from there. There is the possibility for some precipitation in parts of Texas according to the AI model, but please do keep in mind that this is 13 days out, and this is very subject to change. So that's what we have going on. This is the precipitation that we're looking at right here. I want to take a look at the main sea level pressure and 10 meter winds just to kind of see what we're looking at. Overall, it looks like it's going to be a relatively calm day, at least with the winds and everything like that through much of the Midwest, even in Texas and everything like that. We could see some winds gusting around 20 knots or something like that, or 25 miles per hour in Texas, but throughout pretty much the rest of the eclipse, it's going to be relatively calm, at least wind-wise. That's what we have going on. Main sea level pressure anomaly. We're going to have a much higher than average main sea level pressure according to this, which essentially means that pretty much this whole area right there, we're not going to see any threat of weather going on. This is for 7 p.m. on April 8th. In fact, throughout the day, that high pressure system, yes, it does move out, but throughout the day, across the Midwest, there is very high pressure going on across that, which, like I said before, that means that there's not going to be very bad weather going on generally. The only thing we have to be concerned about outside of Texas is cloud cover, and we're going to go ahead and talk about that next, because I have the GFS pulled up, and here's the average cloud cover that we have going on for that day. So this is for Friday, April 5th. We're going to see these cloud patterns continue to move in and out. April 6th is a relatively clear day in the Midwest, although it does get cloudier in parts of Illinois into Indiana on the 7th. But then on April 8th, this is 7 p.m. on April 7th right there, there is going to be some potential clearing going on. From what I have seen, there are, quite a few clouds according to some of these computer models, but essentially what we're looking at is essentially April 8th is kind of the scenario where there is one day where conditions will improve to the point where you will see the eclipse, especially in parts of Arkansas, parts of Illinois, parts of Indiana. If this forecast does hold, which I really don't think it will, because, come on, it's the GFS, and B, we are about 2 weeks out from this point. But if this does hold, then we are looking at pretty much the most optimal conditions going on and through much of Arkansas, Illinois, and Indiana, and I will explain more down the road from here. But that's our cloud cover forecast as of right now. That's the 0Z European. The 12Z, it's not 0Z European, 0Z GFS. 12Z GFS is coming in right now. 6Z GFS, this is what we have going on. It is a little bit different. It is calling for a lot more cloud cover across much of Texas, Illinois, Indiana, and the eclipse path, and that kind of goes to show just how much variability these how do I put it these models have right here. So just take these with a grain of salt for now. I'm just giving you kind of like what we're potentially looking at right here. 850 wind speed with this. Yeah, it's going to be a relatively calm day, although the day afterward, they are looking at a potential low-pressure system, but hey, this is the 6Z GFS, and that's kind of fantasy land at that current point. Temperatures. So let's go ahead and talk about temperatures for the eclipse area, because I think that's going to be a very important thing to talk about as well. So here's what we have with the temperatures right here. This is for 18Z or 1 p.m. when the eclipse is kind of starting and moving through Texas and starting to at least partially appear in parts of the Midwest. Here's what we're looking at right here. We're going to go ahead and zoom in per sector right here. If these temperatures do hold, we're looking at temperatures in the upper 50s in parts of Indiana and Illinois, although lower 60s could be possible around that time as well. And into Arkansas, we're looking at temperatures kind of into the lower to mid 60s over there. So overall, as Texas, though, is going to be by far the hottest. As I've looked at it right here, it's going to be essentially a difference between like lower to mid 60s, pretty much all the way to the 80s in Texas, upper 70s, lower 80s in Texas, where this thing is going to start right here. So if you do want to see some warmer weather with this eclipse, Texas is right for you. But if you want to see some other stuff, and you want to be if you want to kind of stay where you're at, especially if you're in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and Ohio, this is kind of the optimal area right there. Although I will say this right now, it is going to be a little bit cold, so I would suggest you like bring a sweatshirt or something like that, just so that way you can view it. And also the eclipse is going to be cooling a temperature down quite a few degrees, as that's happened back in 2017 as well. It brought the temperature down, from my recollection, when I was just west of St. Louis viewing the eclipse. It brought the temperature down a good like 5, 6, 7, 8 degrees. I will say that for those 4 minutes, it was pretty refreshing, to say the very least, because the temperature was like in the upper 80s, lower 90s. So seeing that and that happen was quite the experience, to say the very least. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of making this video, to just kind of bring up this forecast and what we're potentially going to be looking at. That's kind of the factors that I was kind of looking at for this eclipse. So now this is the kind of part where you're probably wondering, Patrick, the meteorology is all great and all that. You do this every single video. What are the impacts going to be? What are the chances we're going to see a good eclipse? Well, I'm kind of glad you asked, because this is the second part of the video that I want to talk about, and this is kind of especially for David at this current point in time. David, I know you're watching this. Just keep in mind what I'm about to say is 13 days out. Take it with a grain of salt. I will, and I'll update it in next week. But with that being said, in my opinion, based off of what I'm seeing right now, I would argue that despite the possibility of cloud cover, Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri are the best kind of optimal viewing point at this current point in time. The reason I am kind of going behind this statement right here is because you're going to see, let's go ahead and pull up the 0Z GFS. You're looking at some clearing, especially in southwest Indiana and parts of southern Illinois, and even into southeastern Missouri over there. Whereas in Texas, you're going to see pretty much the southern part of Texas, especially in the morning, have some clouds, and then clouds are going to start emerging over much of the state where the path of totality is going to be. So that might not be the optimal viewing point, but keep in mind these models are subject to change right now. As you can see, this is the 6Z compared to the 0Z right there. But overall, and based off of some other sources that I've been looking at, yeah, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri are probably the optimal place to kind of view this thing, and that's because we're looking at less cloud cover. There's going to be better roads to kind of navigate through that, and there's just going to be more places to kind of look at it. But I will say, though, if you do want to go out, there is going to be a lot of traffic that is in association with this. And the reason I'm saying that is because I've been talking with some buddies who live in Indiana and all that stuff. I'm going to be going to see the eclipse. I'm not going to say exactly where because I don't want to get doxxed or anything like that. But I am going to go see the eclipse, and this will be the first time since 2017. So I'm actually pretty stoked about it. But yeah, the reason I'm saying the Midwestern area is because, well, there's flatter terrain, there's better road conditions, and all that stuff. There's not as many trees. I mean, there's a few, obviously, because it's the Midwest. But yeah, that's why I'm viewing that right there, mainly because of more just optimal like road conditions, more optimal cloud cover probability. It's gonna be something that we're going to have to monitor for the next 2 weeks, because if it is cloudy on the day of the eclipse, that would absolutely suck. And don't get me wrong, I completely agree with that as well over there. Now, as for parts of Arkansas, Oklahoma over here, we're going to go ahead and kind of move into that. That's probably the area where you're not going to see it very much for three main reasons. Number one, the forecasted overcast and clouds, especially going into April 8th. This is April 8th right here. This is 7 a.m. on April 8th right there. Actually, it is going to clear out a little bit according to the 0Z GFS, but so that we'll scratch that first part off. But the second part is because it's the terrain. You have more hilly terrain. There's a lot of forest, especially in this part of Missouri and this part of Arkansas, as well as eastern Oklahoma over there. So that might make might not be good for the optimal viewing point right there. You're still definitely going to see the eclipse right there. Don't get me wrong. It just may not be the best place to do it, in my opinion. But if you do live in Arkansas, Oklahoma, or Missouri, or anything like that, and you do want to see some action going on, there are definitely a few spots to do that, but keep in mind, if you're going to concentrate in areas like Tulsa, Fayetteville, Fort Smith, those areas right there, there's going to be a lot of traffic in association with this, because pretty much the whole country is going to be wanting to see this eclipse right there, if we're going to be honest. In fact, we have the path of at least partiality going throughout the country. Even parts of Washington and Oregon and the Pacific Northwest are going to see this eclipse, at least part of this eclipse. Although, if you are in the East Coast in like Maryland, Virginia, into those areas right there, I know back in 2017 you guys didn't get to see the eclipse as much, but this time is going to be different, because you're looking at basically like about an 80% path of totality. And how I worded that was a bit strange, I'll say that, but you're going to see about 80% of the eclipse compared to like 40% like you saw in 2017. So if you're in the East Coast, this is good news for you. You're going to see a better stuff, but the bad news is we have a lot of overcast throughout the East Coast right there. So it's going to be definitely a bit more difficult to kind of gauge what we're looking at right here, and we'll have to wait for that forecast, because this is going to be a situation where we're going to have to watch for the next couple of weeks. I know I kind of said that a few times, but because there's quite frankly a lot of cloud cover and there's so much uncertainty at this point in time, it's just something that we're going to have to pay attention to, and it's just something that we're going to have to wait, and that's why I'm making a second forecast on Sunday, just to kind of look at the newest data, especially as the European comes in, the GEM GDPS comes in, some of the other models come in. So yeah, that's what we're looking at least in this part of it right here. But in the meantime, please monitor your local weather agencies on the eclipse. If you're planning to travel, make sure you have all the proper things you need. We'll keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor, especially as this is going to be an event that we're probably not going to see for another 7 years at this point. But yeah, we'll keep you updated once again. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you are new. It helps us out, helps us make more videos like these. The goal of this channel, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.